Hello again, and welcome back. If you're listening, we apologize for the technical issues. Hopefully we are in good condition from here until the end of the show. Andrew, as we were saying, wonderful weather here in Richmond and in Indiana. We're back, seem to be doing well. So anywho, yeah, my week's been okay. Paige just got back from her trip, and now she's been at work for 4 days in a row. So me and the old Bailey boy have been just chilling, going to the gym, kind of sore. March Madness, Andrew, is going on. Not treating either one of us very well.
Absolutely not. I feel like at this point I am just giving my money away to FanDuel because I haven't hit a single bet all weekend. I've had some heartbreaking parlays, and today I tried one more time, and as soon as Illinois lost, I was like, you know what? I just kind of need to put the FanDuel bet, close it for a little while. Just hasn't been my weekend betting wise, that's for sure.
Yeah, not mine either. Day one, both my favorite teams lost. My bracket was busted. I now have two people out of the Final Four. My champion's done. I lost $60 day one. Some other money another day. We'll just keep those numbers to ourselves here. But yeah, not my ideal week, but who knows? Maybe it'll turn around. You just keep shooting until you make it, right? Is that how it works? That's how gambling works.
Sure. There we go.
All right. Well, now that I'm all shaken up from our technical issues, let's get back into it here. Andrew, the Colts, free agency. I wouldn't say a lot going on for the Colts in free agency, but lots going on around the league. There are some things here to talk about in regards to the Indianapolis Colts, including the fact that we officially have our new quarterback, Carson Wentz. The trade became official Wednesday. Carson has done his presser. Carson has had a really awesome interview with Pat McAfee. But yeah, Carson Wentz, our quarterback, is in Indianapolis wearing his blue.
Yeah, it was great to hear from him for the first time. The trade went through Wednesday officially, and he spoke with Indy media for the first time Thursday. And it kind of stinks because most of the presser, I think the Indy reporters were trying to keep it on football, trying to kind of see what he was excited about being in Indy for. And then the Philly media kind of took over, and they were kind of badgering Carson over and over again about what happened in Philly. And I mean, yes, you probably can understand why they want that to happen, but at the same time, we've moved on. Carson Wentz is an Indianapolis Colt, and it's time to accept that. So yeah. I think it kind of stinks that that's what his first presser was like, but I don't think the Philly media will be back. So we can kind of now, the next time we hear from him, we can focus more on the football aspect. But I don't know about you, but the thing that I think by just the general feel that I got from Carson in his first press conference was just his genuine excitement to be in Indianapolis and to really have that fresh start. He said fresh start over and over again. And I think just seeing the way he spoke about the different topics that we're going to get into, like Frank Reich and his teammates, he was that glow that he had, and just the genuine excitement to really put the Philly stuff behind him and really start anew here in Indianapolis. So he looks excited. He looks like he's ready to work. And that's kind of what we were hoping for. So, definitely got a really good vibe from Carson overall from that first conference.
Yeah, I would agree with the him looking happy. The thing that stands out most to me is the Philly media stinks. I've been learning that ever since this whole Carson Wentz stuff started. But the press conference, it was just that locked that in. They weren't going to let him go. They acted all buddy-buddy. Literally, how about the guy that was like, what do you call him? Genius. Hey, genius. And they're playful, and then he goes, why are you such a shitty human being? I mean, like, it just went dark real quick. They beat him up, all of them. The Colts reporters weren't all nice either.
Right. Well, the thing is, too, it's not just the Philly media, it's the Philly fans. Philly fans are absolutely ruthless. And I mean, they always brag all the time how they're They're a tough fan base. It's like,
Yeah.
cool. You just ran an incredibly talented quarterback out of town, and now you're putting all your hope in Jalen Hurts. Great job for being tough.
Big legs.
It's got you one Super Bowl in your entire history. Congratulations. So yeah, I think I'm thankful that we can put this behind us, where the Philly media gets out of there. The Philly fans are still going to be attacking people on Twitter and trying to attack Carson as much as they can. But at the same time, I really wish we could have learned more about the football side of things, and I wish that would have been more of the focus. But I mean, we had a couple questions, one from our buddy Jake Arthur that we'll get into, and that kind of gives us a little insight into what Carson, I think, wants to do here in Indy, and what he really wants to kind of show not only his teammates but the entire organization that he's all about.
Right. And Andrew, before we get into that, I do, in regards to March Madness, real quick, we have a wonderful question. If the Colts players played basketball, how far into the tournament would we go?
Hey, Mo Alley Cox played at VCU in the tournament. We've got some ballers. T.Y. Hilton's good at basketball. We've got a couple ballers on the team.
Kenny Moore played basketball.
Kenny Moore, shout out Kenny Moore. He's got a jumper. So I mean,
Kenny Schefter,
game? Probably not. Kenny Schefter. We'll get into that later too. But yeah, I mean, they probably win us some money more than our bets have this weekend so far.
Hey, VCU, located here in Richmond, Virginia. VCU, the first and hopefully the only team eliminated from the tournament due to positive coronavirus. You get it. Tests. COVID. But yeah, Andrew, Jake did ask a good question in regards to football, and he was the second question. Kiefer asked a pretty good one. Second or third. Kiefer asked a good question right off the bat. But Jake Arthur dropped a good question in regards to Pittman and Wentz working out together and whatnot. And we do have that clip right here available with what Carson had to say about that.
Yeah, ever since the trade announcement or whatever a month ago, I've been in a lot of conversation, a lot of communication with a lot of my teammates. And for me, it's been pretty cool. It's cool to see the support and how welcoming they've been. And not a single one has said a bad thing about this organization and this area and this community. So for me, that's exciting, both for me and for my family. So guys seem awesome. Guys seem great. It was really cool to get down there in California and throw with Dez and with Pitt and get some work in. And I look forward to getting some more work in with those guys and the rest of the guys really all over the country. We'll see how this offseason kind of pans out. But, I'm looking forward to really meeting everybody in person and getting to work as soon as we can.
So I, for one, love the fact that he's already been working out with those guys. I love that answer by him. Anything to say on that, I guess, Andrew, before I move on?
Yeah. Well, number one, so much for the beef between him and Michael Pittman.
They're going to hate each other.
That's the first teammate that Carson's worked out with.
Yeah.
He also said that he's gotten dinner already with Jack Doyle and Ryan Kelly. He has spoken with Julian Blackman. He's FaceTime with Kenny Moore. He's really starting to connect. And I think that's one of the things we had questions about. You hear coming out of Philadelphia that he didn't really connect with his teammates well. He didn't kind of bring the locker room together. He was kind of that standoffish guy. And so far that's not the case. He wants to be involved with his teammates. He wants to develop those relationships.
Yep.
And I think, again, a lot of this stuff, what's true and what's not, we're going to find out here once he becomes a member of the Colts organization like he has now, and we really start to see him develop those relationships and that bond with his teammates. And I think you can see it right off the bat that he wants to show that he is a team first guy. He said later in his press conference when talking about his time in Philly that he hopes his teammates know that he gave everything he had both on and off the field and in the locker room. And I think that's already kind of showing now. We talked about it when the trade was announced, that if it is the case that Carson isn't the greatest teammate or doesn't want to get those relationships, the locker room's gonna dictate it, and the locker room's gonna put him in his place right away. And it looks like that doesn't even need to happen. Carson is willingly doing these things, and he wants to be a part of this locker room and a part of these guys very, very quickly. And I think the culture that is set in Indianapolis, and it seems like the type of guy Carson Wentz is, he's going to fit in just fine. And I think his teammates are going to love him. And I think they already do. And they're excited for him to be there.
Yeah. And I think the team, and who knows, maybe they got a little inside knowledge from, or a little inside request from Frank and Chris. I don't know. But the team, I mean, the second it was announced, I mean, people, especially like Kenny Moore, you know, everybody's going wild on social media. I think they knew how important it was to Carson to feel welcome and feel like he was going to fit in. But I agree with you. I do think he's going to fit in, especially after watching his interview with Pat McAfee. I do think he's going to fit in. I think he's got a good sense of humor. He's just one of the guys, I think. And that's going to be important for the mental aspect of his game, because at the end of the day, I think that was the biggest issue with this past season in Philadelphia, which we've talked about before. But he seems genuinely happy to be in Indiana. Trying to think if there's anything else that stood out besides that.
Yeah. Well, like Chris Ballard has said numerous times, the locker room's what runs this thing. We're only going to get as far as the locker room takes us, and that culture that's established by Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, Kenny Moore, DeForest Buckner, Ryan Kelly, T.Y. Hilton, the leaders on this team that have established that culture of nobody is selfish in this locker room, and if you are selfish, you're not welcome. Darius Leonard, before free agency even started, put out a public notice on Twitter saying, free agents that are wanting to come to Indy, you better be prepared to work hard. You better be prepared to sacrifice for your team. And if you don't do that, you're not welcome. And Carson has bought into that already. And I don't think me and you thought that was going to be an issue, but just the outside noise. Everybody was talking about that would be an issue, and it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. And I think if we can have a normal off season where the guys can work out more or be in contact better, that's just going to help Carson get that timing down, especially because he's going to continue to work with Pittman and Dez. If T.Y. Hilton resigns, I'm sure they'll get together. Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox, all of these guys are going to want to be together and really create that camaraderie. So it's not brand new when they start training camp in July. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, he got beat up on a little bit, I think, and I think he handled it well. He's also an all-time answer a question without answering the question kind of guy. Even in regard, I mean, even to some of the questions that weren't real tough, I don't know if he's not a great listener, but I mean, there were just some questions I was like, hey man, that's not what the question was at all. But you laid out this big long circle. I mean, he's the ideal quarterback when it comes to talking to the media. He says the right things, you know. He's not going to get caught up and into saying something that he's going to regret or get yelled at for. I think overall, and I'm sure it's credit to him taking, having to handle the Philly media for so long, but I think he handled that press conference really well.
Yeah, he came into it, and there was no way he was going to divulge and put blame on anybody. He wasn't going to give very many details about the Philly situation. They tried and he said, you know what, I'm not going to dive into those details over and over again. He said that, and good on him. I mean, he played it well, and really it's, while I'm sure they want to know, it's none of their business. Two, it doesn't matter. He's not in Philadelphia anymore.
Right.
He's an Indianapolis Colt. That's what needs to be focused on. And then I think this kind of segues into it. Now that he is an Indianapolis Colt, what's the main reason he wanted to be an Indianapolis Colt? Frank Reich, period, the end. And he talked about their connection, how back when Doug Peterson and Frank Reich were scouting him at his pro day in North Dakota, just the connection that he has. He talked about first and foremost how they're faith-based men and their values really are the same. And something else that, I mean, we heard that Carson Wentz was kind of hard to coach. but he talks about with him and Frank Reich, they have healthy discussions where they challenge each other.
Yeah.
They're not always going to agree, but they're going to work together to find the best possible outcome for the team and for the situation for the offense. And I think that's healthy. You don't want a coach just constantly going to what the player wants to do, or vice versa, where the coach has all the control. That balance of going back and forth and working together, not only for situations, certain plays, certain personnel, kind of what fits within the rhythm of the offense, things like that. And I think that's a big key to what this success with the Colts is going to be next year, is getting Frank Reich and Carson Wentz back on that same page and back in sync. So that way it gives the offense a better chance of succeeding just throughout the year in general.
Andrew, and in regards to kind of Frank Reich and Carson Wentz relationship, we got Corey asking a question. What kind of differences in offensive play calling do you think we can expect compared to with Rivers at QB? And I think Carson himself kind of talked about this in his interview with Pat McAfee. He mentions, the playbook looks a little different that, for him than it did Phil and Jacoby, and he mentioned Andrew, but I think you can expect the playbook to look and the play calling to look a little more like it did with Andrew Luck in 2018 when the Colts had a very successful offense. That's the best offense we've had in recent years. In my opinion, Andrew, that's probably how I see our offensive play calling going this year. What about you?
I think you're exactly right. It's going to be similar to 2018 mobile quarterback than Philip Rivers was. We're going to see a lot more of those RPOs that the Colts used with Andrew Luck in 2018, because you're going to have, again, an amazing ground game because you have Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Marlon Mack is back, which we're going to talk about a little bit deeper in depth. But the three-headed monster that's going to come up, and something that I don't know a lot of people realize, in 2017 when Carson Wentz was his MVP form, the Eagles were third in the league in rushing. So it wasn't all on Carson Wentz. It's going to be predicated by the run. The Colts are still going to want to establish the run. Mm-hmm. The Colts are still going to have a dominant rushing team, even with Carson Wentz back there. Yep. But you are going to see a lot more of getting Carson maybe out of the pocket to make some throws, a lot of RPOs, a lot of quick throws. The kind of what we saw with, if we can get T.Y. Hilton back, this is where it's going to be crucial, because those RPOs on T.Y. Hilton, those quick slants, or those RPOs of bringing the safeties and bringing the secondary in to get T.Y. over the top, things we really couldn't do last year because nobody is going to think that Philip Rivers is taking off on an RPO. So I think that's what it's going to look like. It's going to open things up more, not only on the ground, but just different route trees and different plays that we can call to move the ball down the field. And I think Carson's going to fit into that part of the offense, that facet of the offense, beautifully.
Yeah, and this can kind of take us right into our free agency talk, Andrew, in regards to our running game. We're here, getting ready to talk about what the Colts have done so far in free agency, and the first thing we got to talk about are those we've re-signed, one of those being running back Marlon Mack. Kind of came as a surprise to both of us, to everybody, I think. I don't think we expected it, at least not this early. And we're glad to hear it. But I honestly think with him and Jonathan Taylor with a full offseason already in the system for a year, I think he's going to have a monster year. And then Nyheim Hines, I think we've got the best backfield in the league, honestly, between the three of them. So I think that goes to show you, when Carson Wentz is going to have that run game there that he didn't have in the last couple years in Philly. People forget 2019, he had a good season, and he was the only person on that football team. I mean, that Philadelphia Eagles team, I think, was the most injured team I've ever seen in the history of football. He won games by himself. So I think that run game is going to be super important in making him, at least start to get back towards that MVP level that he played at in 2017.
Right. And Marlon Mack signed for a 1-year, $2 million deal. We both being youth knew or thought at least, that he wasn't going to be back, especially after what Chris Ballard said, how it broke his heart that Marlon Mack got hurt. And Marlon Mack deserves a big contract, and they just weren't sure if that was going to be able to happen in Indy. And while it didn't happen, I think this kind of signifies a couple things. One, it signifies that Marlon Mack probably wasn't great out there, because the running backs coming off of torn Achilles, that's one of the most devastating injuries for a running back, because you don't know if that burst is going to be there. You don't know if that cutting ability, especially for a running back like Marlon Mack, who doesn't necessarily rely on his power. It's more of his speed and his quickness and being able to make those little moves inside of the blocks. Yeah. So I think that's one thing. Another thing that I think it signifies is Marlon Mack wants to come back and be a part of this Colts team. So, and I think it's good for both sides, because number one, if Marlon Mack can return, I don't know if he can return to his previous form, because coming off an Achilles injury for running back, very hard to do. But if he can show the serviceable back and be an important part of this offense, I don't think he's not going to be running back one. That's Jonathan Taylor.
Exactly.
He's established that. He's going to be that. Marlon Mack's going to be that change of pace back now this year. Yeah. But if he can show that he still has Pro Bowl potential and still has that caliber of play, not only is it going to help the Colts tremendously and get them where they want to go, Marlon Mack will be able to hit the open market again next year and probably get paid.
Yep.
So it works out both ways for both parties, and I think it's something that we didn't expect, but it's a very pleasant surprise for the Colts to get Marlon Mack back.
Very pleasant. Andrew, I don't know if it was good luck or what, but my Colts calendar that I've got right here above my little setup here, the month of March, Marlon Mack stiff-arming a dude from the Falcons. We were at that game, you and I.
We were.
But I don't. Maybe it was just the right month. I'm glad they put him in the calendar there. But like you said, the thing is, like, he's coming off that Achilles injury. He's not the number one back, so he doesn't have to. He's not going to be taking a heavy load of carries. We're not going to overwork him, especially early in the season. And like you said, when he is able to play, if he's effective, that's just going to set him up for success, most likely then with another team. But I mean, you saw too, if he gets hot in a game, we have no problem. Just keep feeding him the ball. Hines had games like that. JT had games like that last year, and even Jonathan Williams. Am I losing my mind?
Jordan Wilkins.
Who's Jonathan Williams?
Jonathan Williams was our running back like 2 years ago.
There
he was
we go.
Like fourth on
That's
the
why
chart.
I knew it was something. Jordan JW. That's hilarious. I haven't talked about Jordan Wilkins in months. But anyway, I mean, he had some games where they were giving him the ball, one specific. But, yeah, I'm not real worried about Marlon Mack's ability to produce, but I don't think we're going to set him up for failure, and I think that's going to be key.
Right. I think something, too, to note is that Marlon Mack has stayed in Indianapolis for his rehab. So the Colts have an up close and personal look and know where he's at in his rehab process too. I don't think they would sign off on this if Marlon Mack was greatly behind in his rehab or not showing very good signs. Yeah. So that's also very encouraging. Now, like I said, do I expect Marlon Mack to run for 1,000 yards next year? No. Maybe he won't even get to 500, but I do think he can be an effective part of this offense to give spells to Jonathan Taylor. And there might be a couple games where, because I think the Colts will still try to ride the hot hand. Maybe there's a couple games next year where the hot hand is Marlon Mack, and we can just give it to him and let him do his thing. But I'm excited he's back, because Marlon Mack, phenomenal Colt, great teammate, very unselfish guy, and he's going to make that running back room better next year for sure.
And another signing, re-signing for the Indianapolis Colts, quarterback Xavier Rhodes. Roads closed, my boys. Kenny Schefter seemed to be right on top of this one. Kenny Moore the second, everybody. If you don't know him, slot corner for the Indianapolis Colts, best slot corner in the league. Top corner in the league, period, has been all over Twitter, like tweeting teasers and hopes for what he wanted. And Xavier Rhodes was one of those guys that he was kind of teasing, like, Rhodes close, he's coming back. Now he's making comments about Ty. But what does it mean for this Colts secondary, Andrew, to have Xavier Rhodes back?
It fills a big hole, because without Xavier Rhodes, we were going to be in trouble at corner. Just be not because there's not guys that can do it, but there's a lot of unknowns outside of Xavier Rhodes and Kenny Moore. Rock Ya-Sin has had his ups and downs, and he's certainly you can't count on him as the number one corner right now. You just can't.
Can I say something on Rock real quick?
Yeah.
Darrelle Revis. Who's the guy on the Patriots that was so good this past year or the year before?
Stephon Gilmore. Thank you.
Josh Norman, Richard Sherman. Okay, how many of those guys did you hear getting talked about in their first 4 years, 5 years even? Hell, by the time I realized Darrelle Revis was Darrelle Revis, he was old. I mean, when Revis Island was a thing, I mean, it was he was towards the end of his career. I mean, corners don't just show up and just lock guys down, especially not the best in the league, the second they show up to a team. So I have plenty of time to develop still. It needs to start, you know what I mean? And he has improved every year so far. But everybody needs to give Rock a break. Carry on.
This is a very big year for Rock Ya-Sin, because I think if he doesn't start showing that potential that the Colts believe in him, I think he's going to find himself on the pine. And because Marvell Tell's going to be back, Isaiah Rodgers was showing promise at the end of the year, and you can assume that the Colts aren't done making moves at corner, because they might very well draft one as well. But Xavier Rhodes returning on a 1 year, $6.5 million deal, which I think is a steal, because we thought he was going to claim probably 9 to 10 million on this. So Colts get a steal there.
Absolutely. But he's a top 10 ranked corner from Pro Football Focus.
He was number 5 last year. Kenny Moore was number 8.
6.5 million. It's incredible.
Right. That kind of just shows the market. There was a lot of high caliber corners out there that didn't get very big money. It really didn't. So, and I think we were talking about Rock, and this kind of ties in. I tweeted about this from the podcast account. Rock Ya-Sin was attached to Xavier Rhodes. He was attached to his hip last year, really absorbing a lot of information from Xavier Rhodes. Because Xavier Rhodes is a former Pro Bowler, a former All-Pro, and Rock was trying to absorb all that, not only what he does on the field, but what he does off the field. And what I mean by that is how he studies his opponents, his film, how he breaks down film, things of that nature. So when you're talking about Rock's development, having Xavier Rhodes back for another year, that can only help Rock, because Xavier Rhodes has taken him under his wing, and he's going to continue to mentor him. So with Xavier Rhodes, I was hoping it would be a multi-year deal, maybe like a 2 to 3 year deal instead of the 1. But having Xavier Rhodes back, again, it buys time for the future of the number 1 corner. It helps Rock Ya-Sin develop. And Xavier Rhodes played very well in this scheme and in this zone system that Matt Eberflus has. He's a very willing tackler, which is something that is required of Colts cornerbacks. So I think it's a really good situation for not only Xavier Rhodes to continue playing at a high level, because he's going to be put in a tremendous position to do that, but also for the Colts, because Xavier Rhodes fits exactly what the Colts need in a number 1 corner. And I think Xavier Rhodes is going to have just as good of a season, hopefully, as he did this past year, to really help the Colts succeed in the secondary.
And I think he can. I don't think there's any reason he can't. Andrew, I don't know if this fits better here with the re-sign section or the free agents lost, but T.Y. Hilton is still in a hopeful re-sign situation, and Vonda here is asking, any concern that there's been no announcement on re-signing T.Y. yet? What do you think?
I don't know if it's concern, but the Colts do need to be careful, because as of right now, T.Y. Hilton is the number 1 free agent quarterback on the market. And I get the Colts don't want to overpay. They want to allow T.Y. to test the market and then kind of have him dictate the market himself, then come back to him so that way they can give a competitive offer.
we think it's close. We hope it's close. Andrew, what he means when he says T.Y.'s the number one receiver on the market at this point is everybody else has been signed. People are gone. It is down to pretty much T.Y. Hilton, and I can't even think of another big name out there right now. So it's important, and I think it's coming. Kenny Schefter thinks it's coming. So fingers crossed, but no promises yet. That's for sure. Okay, Andrew, we lost you there a bit. You're back though. Let's talk about then, Andrew, who we have signed from outside of our locker room.
One guy, and he's not a very big
busy
name.
bee, Chris Ballard.
Isaac Rochelle. He's a defensive end from the Chargers. He is, I think he's only like 25, 26 years old. It's not a guy that's really going to have much playing time, I don't think. I think he's only has about 9 sacks in his career. He is someone that I think is going to fit a backup defensive end, defensive tackle mode, and maybe play on special teams. But it's not somebody that is really going to make a lot of splash plays. And really the Colts haven't been active. I didn't expect them to be too active, but I think this is even taking it to another level.
Yeah.
They have, I mean, it's
we
not
warned
to say
everybody
they
though.
We
told everybody.
It's not like they haven't been in on guys. They certainly have been. The price has just gone too high on some of the guys they were going after. But there's still quite a few holes on this team right now, most notably at pass rusher, because we lost Danico Autry. Justin Houston's a free agent. Al-Quadin Muhammad's a free agent. And besides Rochelle, we haven't gotten anybody else on the team at pass rush. I mean, there's still a whole left tackle. We could use another receiving tight end because Trey Burton's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
T.Y. Hilton hasn't been signed. There's still plenty of holes on the roster, and I know we're only a week in.
Yep.
But the Colts have to be careful. Again, patience is good to a point, but at the same time, you don't want to go into the draft relying on the draft to fill all these holes, especially when the Colts only have 6 picks. That's the least amount of picks they've had.
Yeah. I
think in Chris Ballard's entire tenure as the Colts GM.
Tenure.
So from tenure, you get it. from what Irsay said earlier this week, you can almost guarantee you can almost guarantee the Colts are going to draft a left tackle. That's pretty much what Jim Irsay said this week.
Yeah.
But as far as wide receiver, it is a deep wide receiver class, and I do think T.Y. Hilton, the deal gets done. Again, Colts need to be careful because they don't want to let him get outbid of what the Colts can afford or the Colts are willing to pay for him. Because I think fans would riot at that point. But I'm not going to say I'm concerned, but I am a little bit on edge just because there's a lot of holes that still need to be filled. And I'm not saying you go out and you spend $20 million on a Kenny Galladay, $20 million on a Bud Dupree. But I'm saying we do need to start seeing some moves because we don't want to have this many holes going in to because if we do, not all of those holes are going to be filled, and there's going to be some serious weaknesses on this team.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought we'd have more than one signing, Andrew, especially when I don't even see this guy. So I don't see this guy starting. He's not going to start. So I mean, we've done nothing to address the starting position, which in this case we can go ahead and say we lost. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this. It's been kind of floating around in my head. Do you think that maybe Chris Ballard and the Colts are willing to roll out with Kamoko Toure and Ben Banigou and Tyquan Lewis, these young guys, and see what they have? I
heard someone on Twitter who's been pissing and moaning a lot about our free agency as if he's not an intelligent human being that knows how the Colts typically do business, and you know who I'm referring to right now. but I heard him say maybe it's kind of like was the movie Moneyball. Brandon Beane traded, I can't remember the player's name away, but he traded him away because the coach was refusing to play the guy he wanted him to play at a certain position. Chris Ballard, hey, you don't want to get my guys in there yet? I'm ready to get them in there, so I just won't give you anybody else to put in. You won't have a choice. I thought that was a hilarious take, and obviously a joke, but I mean, if that's the way you got to do it, I mean, maybe Chris Ballard just believes in his guys so much that he thinks now's the time they got to take a step. And there's time to address things in the draft. We got some compensatory picks, which we eloquently just explained last week.
We didn't get any this year.
What? I thought we got 3 from the tenders on who? I thought we got some.
No, we have no compensatory picks this year because we lost a free agent last year. We lost Ebron, but we got Phillip Rivers, so they canceled each other out. We won't receive the guys that we're losing to free agency.
Okay, so these come to next draft.
We wouldn't receive compensatory picks until next year. We only have 6 draft because of the Carson Wentz trade. We have 6 draft picks.
Yeah, we
have 1 through 7, but we don't have a third. So we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. This is the least amount of draft picks that Chris Ballard has had since he became general manager.
Yeah.
So the Colts need to be careful that they don't go into the draft with a lot of holes. But back to the young guys, you can see Tyquan Lewis stepping into the Danico Autry role.
Exactly. He's a similar frame and player as Danico Autry as well. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that can kind of bounce in, bounce out. So I think we're fine. You know what I mean? I'm not panicking. Everybody's like, we've got these giant holes.
I'm not panicking, but I'm a little on edge. I'm uneasy because I just don't have quite the bit of, I don't have confidence that a Tyquan Lewis can really create a ton of pressure off the edge. Kemoko Turay been hurt. If he can come back healthy, I think that's a huge move. I think Kemoko Turay can come into his own. Ben Banigou was a healthy scratch last year for multiple games. We don't know what Ben Banigou is.
Right.
So it'd be nice to see a little bit more of him, but there's a reason he was a healthy scratch. I mean, that's not a good look. So there's a lot of unproven guys along that defensive line outside of DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart.
Speed question here, Andrew, in regards to Chris Ballard's guys. And like you said, we don't really know what Ben Banigou is. We don't know what Paris Campbell is. And Jamie Parker here, before we move on to our next segment of free agency, wants to know how big it is for this team that Paris Campbell stay healthy and develop this season. 15-second answer, Andrew, no more.
I think it's huge. Because Paris Campbell, we've seen what he is healthy. He can be an absolute playmaker.
Yep.
But he just needs to stay healthy. I mean, it's been a lot of unluckiness, but if he doesn't start staying healthy this year and start producing, the Colts are going to look to move on. Huge year for Paris Campbell.
And wide receiver being one of the places, aside from re-signing T.Y., but wide receiver is a place that we both believe needs addressed yet, and maybe it's already been addressed. We just need Paris Campbell to show out. Let's move along, Andrew.
It's a very deep draft too, so be aware of that. Very deep draft for wide receiver.
Let's move along to the free agents we've lost so far. Unfortunately, if you haven't picked up on it, we did lose Danico Autry to the Titans. It sounds like the Colts offered similar money, but not with as much job security as the Titans offered him. Danico Autry apparently is not happy about this, and he is basically threatened they're going to regret it the 2 games we see them next year.
Yeah, there was similar money. The Colts didn't want to give as much guaranteed or put as much up front as the Titans did, and I think that's why he went with Tennessee. 3 years, $21.5 million. Good payday for Danico Autry. Danico Autry was probably Chris Ballard's most valuable signing in free agency. For 3 years, $17 million, and he had 20 sacks and played such a crucial role for us all throughout his tenure in Indianapolis. So it's going to suck not having Danico Autry, but yeah, he wasn't quite happy that the Colts didn't shell out that money up front to begin with.
Right.
He said it's going to be personal, so it'll be fun watching him go up against Big Q and Ryan Kelly next year for a couple games.
Yeah. Quarterback Jacoby Brissett signs with the Dolphins. We assume that's a backup signing down there too, but he is a Southern Florida guy. I mean, who the hell isn't going to want to move down to Miami and play in the best position in the NFL, which is the backup quarterback, right next to punter and kicker.
So Jacoby's going to mentor Tua down there, be his backup.
Great guy.
And if Tua stumbles, Jacoby is a great guy, and he was great for the locker room, great leader. He will be missed, but at the same time, he has got a better opportunity down in Miami, and the Colts obviously have moved on. Jacoby Brissett is not the future of this team, so I wish him all the best down in Miami. Well, maybe to ask your boy Tyler how he feels about Jacoby Brissett being down there on the Dolphins.
Yeah, maybe. I'm surprised we don't have Tyler button in on the comments here. I'll have to ring his bell for that later. That's really all on Jacoby. I mean, good guy. Slightly above average quarterback. I mean, it is what it is. And unfortunately, smiles and personality don't get you through the NFL. Linebacker, this one was probably the least surprising of all. I mean, we've known this was coming for a while. Anthony Walker gets a chance to go play for the Browns. Hopefully he's going to be able to get the playing time he's wanting by making that move going to the Browns.
Yeah, really. I mean, the Colts loved Anthony Walker. That wasn't the issue. It was that Anthony Walker wanted more playing time, and he wasn't going to get it here in Indianapolis because Bobby Okereke had surpassed him in snaps and was going to take over that starting position. So Anthony Walker, another huge leader in the locker room. Darius Leonard put out a video that kind of got you on your feels. He's definitely going to miss Walker, and he was a great Colt. But so I definitely hope that he balls out in Cleveland and has great success, because he was a great Colt, great teammate, and really good guy.
Great success. Yeah, and I like Anthony Walker a lot. So I also hope he does well. Did you see the tweet from Andrew Walker, the Colts reporter? Shortly after the news, he tweeted, he said, "All right, Browns fans, you're getting a good one in Anthony Walker. Fun tip, I'm not him." People are tweeting at him, right, welcoming him to the Browns and shit. That's hilarious. And next up, Andrew, we have the restricted free agents. We can just read these ones off probably and then kind of explain what they mean. Wide receiver Zach Pascal, tight end Mo Alley-Cox, both got a second-round tender, and safety George Odom, Pro Bowler for special teams, low-level tender, and right of first refusal.
Yeah, so the second-round tender means if those guys received an offer from another team, and the Colts decided they didn't want to match that offer, the Colts would get a second-round pick from that team that offered them.
Yep.
So basically, you would be trading a second-round pick for Zach Pascal or Mo Alley-Cox, which really isn't going to happen. So those guys will be back next year. George Odom, they have the right of first refusal. So if somebody does offer him, the Colts have the opportunity to match that. But if they don't, then Odom would walk away for nothing. So, but I think all three of those guys should be back. George Odom wasn't too happy that he was only placed on the low level tender, but all three of those guys will be back with the Colts next year.
Listen, I don't want to belittle the importance of George Odom to the football team, because I mean, he's a Pro Bowler for special teams.
All pro.
Okay, all pro, but it's still special teams. Calm down. You're not going to, what do you expect? A first round, second round tender? Not going to happen. I mean, just let's face the facts. It's special teams, which special teams are important. They're one of the three phases of the game, but I don't think they're 33.3 repeated % of the game. You know what I mean? They're only on the field for maybe 10% of the plays. It's just realistic, and that's fine. If that's what motivates him to play even better, maybe he ends up on the defense. Maybe he starts playing defense even because he's performing so well. That's fine with me. But yeah, anything else to say on those guys, Andrew?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. It's good to have Zach Pascal and Mo Alley back, because Zach Pascal is one of our favorite players, and I'm hoping that Mo Alley actually used a lot more in this offense and used to the potential that we believe he can be. So he's a weapon that definitely needs to be unlocked next year.
Yeah, me personally, Andrew, I'm much like the one I'm happiest about right now is going to be Mo Alley-Cox. I think he's got the potential to be a real good tight end, and for the reasons you mentioned earlier, he's a basketball player. He's super athletic. He can go up and get it. I think he's got a really high ceiling. So I'm glad to see that he's most likely going to be back. Other Colts news. Colts claimed nose tackle Andrew Brown off of waivers from the Texans. Depth or practice squad or
competition for training camp. Well, I don't think he's got a low chance of making the roster. But yeah, just competition. The bigger news though is that Marvell Tell, Sky Moore, and Roland Milligan all informed the Colts that they'd be back for 2021. They all opted out for COVID last year. But Marvell Tell especially is going to be a big get back, because I think he will push Rocky Sin for playing time on that corner opposite of Xavier Rhodes. So it's definitely something to watch. The Colts are pretty high on Marvell Tell as well.
That I was excited to hear and remember. I guess I didn't expect these guys to not be back. I don't remember what we thought about Roland Milligan. Were we expecting him to get any playing time last year, or was he a practice squad? I don't even remember where he came from.
We expect him to make the roster and be more of a backup safety, special teams. He also has the ability to play nickel. He can be a backup nickel in case Kenny Moore is out. But yeah, so he's one of those guys that you can kind of move all throughout the secondary.
I don't think we have this list, Andrew. What free agents are still available besides T-Wise? TJ Carey still available? Justin Houston
still available. Justin Houston, Al-Quadin Muhammad. Those are the main guys that you would think about. Really, all the other guys were
Raven Clark
roster guys. Raven Clark, goodbye.
See ya.
But yeah, I mean, you never know. Maybe Justin Houston gets signed on a 1-year deal if the market out there isn't big, and you could bring him back. He had 8.5 sacks last year. He was just very streaky, but it would definitely make me feel a little bit better about how
also had a couple safeties.
How the pass rush for the Colts is. Yeah, had a couple safeties as well.
Yeah, that's really it for the Colts this week. I say it was short, but here we are 50 minutes in. So buckle in, everybody. It's another long one. You know what? These off-season ones, when we only have one, they're a little longer. That's just how it goes, okay? Let's talk about the rest of the NFL, Andrew. And I think the biggest news in the NFL this year on day one, anyone Patriots. Patriots committed over $137 million in the first 24 hours of free agency, which was like the third most ever spent in day one or something like that. But here, real quick to get us started, hilarious clip by Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, a podcast I do listen to because it's all about pro football, and that's it. Other podcasts talk about other shit, and I don't want to hear about it. So here's the clip on the day before free agency started, or maybe the week before. I don't remember what day it was, but here you go.
Don't expect to hear, and look, I'm walking right into the old tape exposed tweet. Don't expect to hear the Patriots agreeing to terms with someone for market value today. They've done it twice in 20 years. Adalius Thomas, 07, Stephon Gilmore, 4 or 5 years ago. They're going to wait. There's going to be so many bargains out there. They can make that team better. They can add a bunch of guys, get some pass catchers, tight end. Maybe a Kyle Rudolph ends up in New England once he sees what else is out there. I think the Patriots wait and wait and wait.
Kyle Rudolph. Maybe Kyle Rudolph ends up there. And they got the 2 top tight ends in free agency. He's not an idiot. Everybody was shocked by the Patriots. This is not the Bill Belichick way. Bill Belichick, I'm going to tell you right now, did not like being 7-9. Bill Belichick is.
He also didn't like seeing Tom Brady go and win a Super Bowl. And
he's like,
all right.
No.
All right.
Yeah, let's dig into it. What are we going to start with?
I'm going to run through. I'm going to run through the Patriots sightings real quick. So Matt Judon, the pass rusher from the Ravens, he got 4 years, $56 million from the Pats. Jonnu was hoping the Colts would get 4 years, $50 million.
Tight end.
Hunter Henry, now the other great tight end in this class, 3 years, $37.5 million. And we just keep going. They signed Nelson Aguilar to 2 years, $26 million. Nelson Aguilar is making $13 million a year.
They re-signed Cam Newton.
Patriots. Re-signed Cam Newton for 1 year, I think around 14. Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver, 3 years, 22. Dalvin Godshock, 2 years, $16 million. Kyle Van Noy went back to the Patriots, 2 years, $13 million.
Did he really?
We'll keep going here. He did.
I missed that, dude? Me and Tyler were talking about that because he was so pissed that the Miami Dolphins let him go, and right back to New England he goes.
Right, and then you already talked about Cam Newton, but they re-signed some of their guys, 4 years, 22. David Andrews, 4 years, $19 million. They were going off. And it seemed like every other move was the Patriots this first week. But what's the thing I always tell you?
Oh, my God.
Games aren't won in March.
If you would have tweeted that one more time, I'd have removed you from the account.
Games aren't won in March.
Hey, nobody's saying it's going to work. Nobody's saying it's going to work. But Bill Belichick, you never know. Cam Newton,
I don't think it will.
There's a lot of rumors going around that Cam Newton, even though he claimed otherwise, was having a more issues due to COVID post recovery than he was willing to let on, including things like brain fog. A UFC fighter, a young UFC fighter from Russia, some of the toughest motherfuckers alive. Okay, this dude retired because he got COVID and he just could not get his conditioning back. His lungs are shot. A perfectly healthy, one of the prime athletes on the planet. Okay, so if Cam Newton was experiencing some stuff, I don't suspect that he could play football very well because in the beginning of the year, they were rolling. They were looking good. People were talking Super Bowl as well. So we'll see. I'm interested. Until Bill Belichick's gone, I'm not counting the Patriots out.
I just know that if you spend a lot of money in March, you're doing it because the rest of your team is not very.
No, they stunk, Andrew. They went 7-9.
We'll see. I don't.
Obviously,
again, games aren't won in March. So
I'd be concerned if Chris Ballard was blowing all this money. You know what I mean?
Tom Brady's not walking back through that door. And so usually the teams that spend the most in free agency, they don't even really make it past. They make it past maybe the wild card game in the playoffs, but that's it. So, and you're in the AFC where you still have teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Colts, the Cleveland Browns that are doing real well. Baltimore, AFC's stacked. So the Patriots it's not just going to be a walk. They don't have Brady anymore.
Yeah, Brady's not going to be back, and that's just period. The end of the sentence. Some of the names, Andrew, because obviously a hell of a free agency here. I mean, it's scrolling. Some names that stood out to me: Bud Dupree. You know, we were kind of fingers crossed maybe that could happen. Goes to the Titans. We didn't expect it, but you know, I had my fingers crossed. Corey Davis is another guy that I would have loved to have seen the Colts get. He's now with the Jets. Curtis Samuel, my number one hope for free agency. Andrew, for some reason, put that he re-signed with the team. He is now with the Washington football team, which is not the team he came from. So, Andy Dalton to Chicago. Hilarious. Don't know why, but it happened.
Yeah, and I think it's because they had to get at least quarterback because apparently they offered the house for Russell Wilson and the Seahawks still said no. So they had to at least get something for them to move forward at the starting quarterback position. A couple other guys, Kenny Golladay, 4 years, $72 million with the Giants. That's going to be a big help for Daniel Jones. Carl Lawson, who I was really high on, he went to the Jets for quite a bit of money. Let's see, Yannick Ngakoue went to the Raiders for only $13 million a year. I thought that was that could have been doable for us. But yeah, a lot of movement throughout the NFL. And I think one thing you saw too, a lot of these guys are only signing 1 or 2 year deals. Because of the salary cap and how it's going to be the next couple years, they're signing these short-term deals so that way when the cap does balloon again, when the new TV deal kicks in, they're going to be able to get back on the market and try to cash in again. But yeah, a lot of guys that, I mean, we were hoping would go to the Colts, obviously went other places, but they went for a lot of money. And Chris Ballard wasn't going to blow all the cash on these free agents because of the impending extensions for the other guys. So whether you like it or not, whether it's going to affect the cap,
homegrown
do business. So they're going to sign their own.
We like the homegrown guys. Some notable names that did re-sign with their teams: tackle Trent Williams, linebacker Shaq Barrett, Aaron Jones re-signed with the Packers for a big deal. Good for him. Chris Carson, we already mentioned Cam Newton. Jameis Winston got another year with the Saints.
Trent Williams, 6 years, $138 million with the 49ers.
And worth every penny.
My God, what a contract.
Yep. Gronk re-signed with the Bucks, I think, for a year. Juju shocked us all, re-signed with the Steelers.
He took less money to go back to the Steelers, too.
Almost went to the Ravens.
Would have
been hilarious. I would have loved to have seen Juju go dance on the Steelers logo. And real quick, Andrew, just some news around the league. Quarterback Drew Brees retires after 20 years in the NFL. I have a question. Is he a top 10 quarterback all time in your book?
Top 10, yes.
Okay, he's probably in my top 5. Here's what somebody on the Dan Patrick Show, who it's like his right-hand guy, said. He said that he doesn't rank Peyton Manning higher than he has him ranked. He doesn't rank Drew Brees higher than he currently has him ranked in his top 10 because they played in domes their whole fucking career. Who gives a shit?
Who was this guy?
I don't remember, but it's like Dan Patrick's like secondhand guy. Dan Patrick was like, I get it, but like I don't understand who gives a shit.
Who cares?
Guess what? People that play outside, they also play the other half of their games probably inside on their away games.
Right.
Who gives a shit? It's
right.
That's not Peyton's fault. It's not Peyton's fault that Indianapolis has an indoor stadium. He also played for the Broncos and had one of the greatest fucking seasons of all time outside. Right,
exactly.
So, okay. But Drew Brees, I've got him probably in my top 10. Glad he could retire kind of on his own terms. 15 years, I think, after he signed with the Saints. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Drew Brees, I definitely have him in my top 10. He's not a top 5 quarterback to me. Definitely a top 10, and a guy that really, I mean, has a ton of records. So great guy, great human, and it was just time. I mean, you could see in those last few games his arm definitely wasn't the same, and it was just time to hang him up. So great career. Still upset with him for beating the Colts in the Super Bowl, but hey, I respect great quarterbacks, and I respect Drew Brees.
Boiler up. Anything out of the rest of the NFL news here, Andrew, that stands out to you?
Really, the only thing that the big news was the Raiders trading away like their entire offensive line, just completely remaking. So Derek Carr can't be happy about that. But it's a lot of shakeup in the NFL, and this is now when we're starting to get into the middle of the second wave of free agency, beginning of the third wave of free agency, where there's going to be a lot of deals that are made that the Colts might be in on, and they're going to be value deals. This is kind of where Chris Ballard starts to make his moves in the second week of free agency, when there's a lot of guys still out there available for short. So Colts are still going to be patient, and I still think that we're not going to see as many moves as we even normally see from the Colts. They're 3 to 4, but hopefully the next thing we're talking about is T.Y. Hilton being back with the Colts. Otherwise, we're looking at a very upset fan base and not a lot there at wide receiver. Not a lot of proven bodies at wide receiver. So we'll see what the Colts do this week.
That's it, everybody. Please go follow us right here on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You see the tags there. It's the Educated Fan. That's at TheEHDUCATEDFAN. That's all we have for you. We'll be back next Sunday. Hopefully, maybe Sunday. We'll see. We're going to try to be consistent here due to the streaming and whatnot. But, as we usually say, until next time, Andrew, go Colts.
Go Colts.
I fucking love football, and I love you guys.